I think meaningful assessments can come in many shapes and sizes. In fact, to be thoroughly engaging and to draw out the best work, they should come in different formats and incorporate different criteria. With the need today to have the latest technology, medical services, and patient care comes the need to periodically assess where you currently stand and how you would like to grow as a healthcare facility. With financial costs increasing, assessments sometimes need to be minimized. However, it is with utmost importance to conduct a proper assessment to ensure your organization exceeds today's healthcare standards and thrives as an organization. Doing so will not just benefit your patients, but your employees and your community as well. The term assessment is very general, but it can be categorized into many different process functions. When looking up the definition of assessment, you find the evaluation or estimation of the nature, quality, or ability of someone or something. In healthcare organizations, we commonly see assessments conducted for patient services, employee performance or satisfaction, and information systems. Some areas that you need to focus on when you're doing a pre-assessment is what exists today. Without a clear understanding of what's in place today, how can you define the future? Proper documentation such as procedure manuals, hardware manuals, performance evaluations should be consistently updated and archived for reference at any time. Doing so will greatly save on costs, and it will save hours of time when the documentation is needed for review. If you conduct management meetings to review the documentation to ensure all parties have a full understanding of what currently exists today. You also need to define the future. Conduct management meetings to define short-term goals, long-term goals, needed improvements, and strategies and how to achieve these goals and improvements. Go over the pros and cons of each decision to anticipate what the final result will be. Once a decision is made, it is very difficult many times to go back to the drawing board. Get your employees involved. Way too often decisions are made by the management team only. While the management team has many years of valuable experience and they should have the final decision, it is important to involve those frontline employees where the organization change will affect the workflow the most. This will ensure stronger employee involvement and it will produce a greater outcome at the end of the project. Plus, they may have ideas that will be better for them and for your patients. Frontline employees are the first ones to speak to the public, and they're usually willing to share their honest opinion of the new process that they're about to put into place. Therefore, you need to make sure your employees are heard and that they are an essential part of any assessment. You also must define a realistic timeline. If you haven't completed a project similar to the one you're starting, it can be hard to assess a realistic timeline. For example, if you're implementing a new information system, how do you know how much time is needed to build, test, and train all of your employees? For this example, you would ask your vendor to provide you with an implementation plan which has a detailed timeline defined. The implementation plan provided should be a plan that has been used by many other organizations, and it should be an accurate timeline. Also, you need to ask them if that timeline is relevant to the size of your organization, because it can take different amounts of time or effort depending on how big or how small your organization is. Make sure you specifically ask them about the size of the IT staff that is needed during this implementation, since other departments and other organizations have different varying levels of IT staff for their experience as well as their involvement. With all the healthcare reform changes going on today, organizations are receiving compensation for completing projects by a certain deadline. This can be very beneficial as the cost of these projects keep increasing. Organizations should plan ahead to make sure they're able to meet those needed timelines and guidelines. It's usually recommended to forecast an extra 2 to 3 months to allow room for delays. The last thing that you want to do is not be able to receive compensation that was owed to you because you didn't have enough time. You also need to make sure you have the right amount of resources. Does your organization have experienced staff that's capable of handling this project? Will they be handling this new project as well as their current job? It's very important to make sure you have the right staff on a project and that they have the time to complete the project as well as their current job duties. Because, typically it's rare that you're going to find any healthcare organization where the staff is underutilized. If the needed experience does not exist in your organization, you may need to hire outside experienced help who can either lead the project or just help ensure that it's completed on time and successfully. A lot of times this is a very costly option, but it could end up saving your organization money because these experienced resources have already been through this process before, and they will also know how to set it up and make sure that it's ready to go and that it's done properly. You also need to define a realistic budget. Defining the project budget and then add a little bit to it. It's way too common today that there are always surprise costs, delays, or other added functionality that you want to add on later that you didn't include in the original budget. The last thing that you want to do is be in the middle of the project and not know how you're going to finance it and not be able to finish it. You should also reach out to other organizations. Sometimes reinventing the wheel will just cause too much pain and delays. With today's social technology, it's so easy to reach out to other organizations that have already been through this process. They spent the time and the energy, and they would be able to give you a lot of insight, and many of them are more than willing to share all of their knowledge and any documentation that they have. In addition, you can go to an online forum and search for any project discussions around some of the issues or questions you have. This is the best way to tap into resources, and you're going to get an honest answer. After you've had your project or change implemented for a month, you need to conduct a post-assessment to ensure that all of the goals that were originally set are met and that your project is considered a success. Some areas to focus on in a post-assessment are lessons learned. It's probably safe to assume that there were some hiccups throughout the project. So create a log of these lessons learned so that similar projects in the future, when you're implementing them, you can remember these and make sure that you address the risks or issues. Also, you need to document how are your vendors during the project. Would you use them or would you hire them again? Also, if you hired outside staff, document that as well. Again, get your employee feedback. Many times in the project, people are hesitant because not everybody likes change. But if you have involved your employees from the beginning, you should expect to hear more positive feedback since they were part of the decision-making process. And sometimes some of this negative feedback that they provide is again ways that you can learn to either change for your next project or maybe make changes to your existing project. Never forget that we're doing this for the patient. If this implement change affected your patients, you have got to survey them and see how they feel towards the new change. You may think it's the greatest thing and they may be hating it. And they could switch to one of your partner companies or a competition just because they don't like what's going on. So please make sure that you perform assessments, and you can do them regularly or after every project. Before and after every project is what we definitely recommend. If you need any help, you can always reach out to us. Just visit our website at www.excelhcg.com.